Fighter. What? Fighter. The fighter. Now, the fighter is often maligned for being by far the most generic classes. From the basic box set to 4th edition, to 5th edition, to 17th fucking edition. That's right, when 17th edition is out and you're watching this video going, how the fuck did he know the fighter was still bland and generic? Because the fighter will always be the most generic of classes, just by the very nature of what it is. Now, does that mean your character has to be generic? Absolutely not. Now, the fighter has so much range of potential. Sadly, people often grab the best armor and the best weapon. Dungeons & Dragons had a very bad tradition of not having enough categories to distinct one weapon from another when there are very clear favorites. Many players take the road of power gaming. Now, when you do that, a class like the fighter really suffers, because remember, the fighter is all about, here you go, here's a bunch of pieces, build what you want. However, if you, me, and 19 other people are all building the exact same large shield, long sword, plate mail, wielding fighter, whether he's human or a dwarf, it begins to get very, very generic, very stale, very funky, very fast. Now, when we explore other options, are we going to fight with a net and a trident and a breastplate? Are we going to wear studded leather armor and have a mace and a buckler? Are we going to come up with stories, be intricate, use the feats in other odd ways, not buying the same old cleave and power attack and so forth? Exploiting and building a character. Remember, that's what it really all comes down to. You still have to roleplay this monstrosity of numbers that you've created, unless, of course, you're playing a game that doesn't give you much in the way of options of role-playing. I know that some do, and some, of course, have. I have, and probably we've all seen them at some point or another. I choose not to be associated with that, regardless of what my base attack motives can be. That doesn't really motivate me to drive someone's house or have people over to play. I'm looking for the excitement, the fire, and with a fighter, it's kind of like this. It's like the game designer saying, all right, look, man, we trust you to be on your own with this character class. We don't have to give you evasion and give you a familiar and give you all sorts of built-in advantages to clearly make your character distinct from one another. There's not a great deal of distinction. You can have heavy shield, longsword, plate and mail. All the role-playing personality in the world isn't going to bring those characters to be that much different. You're going to look at them and be like, I don't know, they're a bunch of jackasses and plate mail, longswords, and shields. I mean, I'm so freaking tired of it. Now, when you're playing a fighter, other people are playing fighters, even if they're playing a ranger, or barbarian, or paladin, or so forth, try to make sure you're not using the same weapons. You don't want to step into other people's spotlight and see it impinge upon them. Remember, the game designer is showing trust in you not to be a min-maxing piece of trash. Now, if you are a min-maxing piece of trash, here we go, longsword, a large shield, plate mail, boom, there you go. Your character's done. Now, turn the video off. And for the rest of you, who are that guy, let's talk about why we don't want to make that character. And yes, the scimitar is the same fucking thing as the longsword. It's just as much tricked out and min-maxed. And going with the two-handed sword, the plate mail, pretty much the same thing as well. Go for those more unused, those more unusual weapons. And then you can start thinking, well, why am I using a glaive? Why am I using a Lucian hammer? Why am I using a trident? Why am I going to fight with two hand axes instead of, clearly, two rapiers would be a better idea, or something ridiculous like that. So, think to yourself and bring across that aspect. Remember, once the game is done, memories live, but people don't remember stuff that sucks. They don't remember stuff that's generic. They don't remember 8 points of damage. They don't remember that long sword, plate mail, heavy shield die. They don't, man. And I'm sure I get comments and dislikes and people, hey, my character. No, that wasn't. It wasn't. It just absolutely wasn't. The characters are very distinct. When you have that image, you think about that fighter, he's got no armor on his chest out. Maybe he's got like some chainmail leggings. Maybe he's got like a chainmail coif. He's got Scott Steiner on him. And just hit him with a gun. Why not? I know Hammer's just saying something like that one. So when you are designing the fighter, remember the game the game designer said, look, man, I trust you not to fuck my game up. And if you fuck his game up, that's on you, and you can't really complain about the fact that your game's sucking balls. You have to make sure that you take that trust and earn it and show, look, man, as a player, I'm worthy of having that respect and trust instead of having to very carefully have things built out for me. No, here's feats, build your character how you want, make it how you want, and it can create a very interesting idea. You know, whether you're playing this big Norse-style warrior or a fencer, you can do both those characters perfectly fine with the fighter class. In fact, hell, the fighter class, really, with the feats of design, you don't need a paladin, a ranger, barbarian, a swashbuckler, samurai. You don't need any of those. You could build an acceptable version with probably knocking a few things back in the feats of every single one of those classes with the fighter. That is all about idea, about creativity. So think about that when you're making a fighter the next time. Think about those weapons that you might not look at, those ideas, and then how does that add to and how does that supplement and support? Remember, it's not just your role-playing, but it's the image. If your role-playing is great and it's just putting this image of the same old song inside that head, they're like, oh man, that's a stank song. I don't even want that in my head. You know, it's like a bad, terrible song. You're like, oh, God, I can't hear this again. You know, so get more different with it. You know, again, you know, your long swords, your rapiers, your scimitars, done to death. Pick something out that's not optimal. Run in here with a heavy mace as a fighter. And people, oh, you're playing a cleric? You know, I do stuff like that all the time, and it's beautiful when you play with a new group. Like, oh, I thought you were playing a cleric because you're using a mace, or, you know, oh, I didn't know you were playing a fighter and you had 2 daggers. The hell you know that for? Like, well, I wanted to. Oh, and then they just look at you like, sometimes they never thought about the idea that having fun is the reason you're there. Have fun, be creative, man. You know, support it, build it up, make your concept work numerically, but come with the concept. Don't put the form over the function. Too many times you see it with a fighter, and that's why the class is so often maligned. It's also a very good class. The human fighter is a great solution for your brand new player to role-playing games, even to brand new to just Dungeons & Dragons.